Skills at ComaCloud again. I'm back with an Ember Prime build guide here. Actually, it was a request from J-Ork, so big, quick shout out to you. Oh, Ember. Oh, Ember. There are a few ways you could build Ember. You can choose to use her ability augment for a fourth ability if you want, but the main ability that everyone likes Ember for is her fourth ability. Let's discuss that right fast. World on Fire, right? It's a pretty wide AoE, does decent fire damage. Like, this is what we usually build Ember for here. A few ways that I've seen people build her, and this is less viable, I think, post rework as it was pre-rework. As we used to build like status and I mean not status, but duration and efficiency. Reduces energy per second right here down to about like 1 or less. Usually it was like 0.5 or 0.7 or something like that. Less viable now because the energy cost increases so much over time. So it's a lot less viable to do it that way. You're still going to build some efficiency, still going to build some duration, but you're not going to solely focus on that anymore because it's kind of pointless. That said, another ability that's useful is Accelerant, because World on Fire obviously burns enemies, and this increases all fire damage dealt, so dropping some Accelerant on occasion is definitely not a bad idea. We mostly ignore Fireball and Fire Blast. There's some niche situations which are good, but generally speaking, it's kind of pointless. So that said, let's get in the build. So obviously, as with all Warframes, you need an aura mod. Since Affinity is Matter Eye, so we're going to go try to find a Matter Eye aura that we like. Growing Power works. If you really want weapon damage, then you can go with one of the amps. They are also Matter Eye Affinity. Or if you really like meleeing things, you can go Steel Charge here, which does technically give you like 4 extra mod capacity if you do it that way. Like you end up at 78 instead of where'd it go? Instead of 74. So I go with Growing Power most of the time because weapons that I have most of the time are status weapons like the Arcoplasmor. So I really like status, and that helps obviously World on Fire deal more damage. Range, because you want your World on Fire to stretch, right? You can use Overextended if you want. I recommend against it because it takes away from your strength. I usually just go Stretch. Maybe a Cutting Drift at the end, we'll see. 145% range, where does that put us at? 21.75 meters. I'll try to get that up a little bit more in a second. Let me see. Strength. Obviously, you want your World on Fire to deal damage, right? That's kind of the whole point. So, we don't build Blind Rage because minus efficiency. So, you build other strength mods like Umbrella Intensify for 36% ability strength currently. If you max it out, somewhere near like 40, I think. But if you don't have Umbrella Intensify, then you use regular Intensify. And Augur Secrets. 150% strength increases your damage to around like 600, which is usually where you want it at. It will increase damage over time as it increases the energy costs, so keep that in mind. Duration. Actually, we're going to move this Intensify because I have Prime Continuity. Prime Continuity, 1 away from max, 50% ability duration. It's great stuff. You can use Narrow-Minded, but you're going to have to try to use Overextended, and then you're going to have to use other mods to try to increase your strength, and other mods to increase your efficiency. It gets into a lot of stuff where you basically don't have enough mod slots to really make Narrow-Minded work with this build, because that cut on your range is actually pretty decently large. It's 70 to 48% right there. 72% duration, but that range cut's a little bit too much for me. If you need the duration, you can go Augur Message or Constitution. As you go Augur Message, because its drain is half that of Constitution, to be honest. So our duration's up a lot, right? There's only one efficiency mod, well, one regular efficiency mod in the entire game. They also have Fleeting Expertise, which you don't see here, but that's fine. One regular efficiency mod. They have Fleeting Expertise, which is plus efficiency, but it's minus duration, which for Ember's World on Fire is pointless. So basically she's a Pyro. Using something like Fleeting Expertise is honestly pointless, guys. You don't want to do that. Let me see. What else do we need here? Maybe a little bit more range. Let's take a look at that. Ta-da, Augur Reach. You can build overextended again if you're not going for damage as much. I typically recommend against overextended because it subtracts 60% ability strength. It puts your strength below 100%, which is not ideal. You're not that worried about range, guys. You want some range, but it doesn't have to be like that. And then lastly, just to keep you just a tiny bit alive a tiny bit longer. Actually no, my bad. Less range. Less range. You need flow. I apologize. If your energy starts higher, it increases your chance of being able to pick up the more energy orbs and keep your ability going for a longer period of time. And then survivability wise, all I use is vigor. That's it. You can use, if you're fighting infested, you can use a vitality instead to deal with the toxin damage. And if you're fighting things other than infested, you can go just with a straight redirection to mitigate non-toxin damage, obviously. But for me personally, I just usually, for a general build, I go with vigor. Being said, if you want me to, I can get into arcanes, but for her, I'd usually go with arcane energize. If you build arcanes, you go with arcane energize and maybe arcane pulse to heal her, because restore her energy and then heal her, because yeah, she's squishy. And Ember Prime less so than regular Ember. Ember Prime's not as squishy, but if you don't have Ember Prime, sorry, I sold regular Ember to the game, but if you don't have Ember Prime, then you're really, really squishy because you don't have that armor increase over there at 125 armor. Let me see. There we go. Let me see. Jesus. Well, just trying to fix it. Let me see. Ember. Ember's armor is a lot lower. A whole 25 armor lower, so yeah, you're a lot more squishy as regular Ember. That's it, guys. That's a basic build. It's mostly focused on damage. Like I said, you can switch this build and let's go this way. A lot more range here, a lot less strength. Because you go with more range mods, you end up going with Augur Reach and Stretch, and dropping the Augur Secrets. It does actually make quite a bit of difference, that extra little 20-something% either way. But you can go with higher range and less strength. Like I said, the only mod in that case you switch out is you just drop the Augur Secrets and go with Augur Reach here, like that. If you don't have access to these mods, guys, it's fine. There are other mods that can increase strength. You can even use Blind Rage if you really, really have to. Just make sure you definitely mitigate that efficiency loss. With lots and lots of duration if you're building for World on Fire. That said, guys, I like Ember a lot as an AoE frame. Less so after her rework. When they reworked her and made this thing increase its energy cost over time, they did that to try to balance the game. But it also made Ember a lot less effective because she couldn't keep her ability going for as long. This still decreases your initial energy per second to 1.21, but over time it's going to become a lot more per second. You can't really help that because, like I said, they changed how the ability itself functions. So, yeah. She likes lighting things on fire, but she can't do it for nearly as long as she used to be able to. Like I said, with growing power, I go with things like Status Built Dex Sacra, because it reaches 56% status chance. Lots of other cool things. I like Status Built Dex Sacra a lot. And then Status Built Dex Furus. Reaches 96.6% status chance, has a ridiculously fast fire rate, and that's with a no forma build right there. So if you form it, you probably get that status chance easily to 100, as well as, getting your damage higher. And then main weapons usually the Arc of Plasmor, just because the Arc of Plasmor is ridiculously strong. And you can also build it to multiple different elemental types. But I already posted a build guide for that, so. use these because they're all status weapons, and they deal lots and lots of statuses, and that's going to proc your growing power really, really often. But, yeah, guys, that's it for Ember. If you guys have any questions, comments, other build guides you need to see, go ahead and post them in the comments below. Appreciate you guys, and again, Jork, shout out to you, bro. It was good playing with you earlier, good games, and, yeah, we'll see you guys soon.